Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District on June 17th. Roll call.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Here. Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Public requests, we won't have any because there is nobody here in the public. Nope. Approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on June 3rd.
Move to approve.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to regular business. First item is the CRA discussion.
There's on page 5 of your agenda packets is a memo detailing some projects that were currently being considered for the CRA. The CRA sent a letter seeking our input as per the ILA for their upcoming budget year. They do have some projects planned at Sanborn Square. These are not approved, so these are subject to change, but in their original downtown plan that they were putting forward, they had Sanborn Square, Meisner Park improvements, electrical upgrades, walkability improvements, and then open space policies that they were looking at. If there are additional recreational amenities or projects that you'd like me to forward to them for their consideration, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, we can also say that we support their plan. We also know that we're going to be working with the city on their downtown recreation as far as right there in the CRA with the talk about the skate park and the softball field. So we'll be talking to Greg more about those elements when he gets back from vacation. So that's one thing we're working on too. But I'm gonna write down your ideas and make sure they get all incorporated into one comprehensive letter to the CRA with our suggestions.
Go ahead.
Suggestion, and I did not have the chance to do more research on it, I guess I would say. And I don't know if it currently exists down there. I've just never seen it. It may be there. But, you know, given their focus on walkability and things to that part, do they have markers about what is a 2-mile loop, a 3-mile loop, or anything in the downtown area? I know out at Peninsula Corporate Center, we have medallions on the circle of the lake that can tell you 1/3 of a mile, 2/3 of a mile, the distance around things. If you want walkability, certainly downtown is a great place to walk, and having some kind of markers to say how much you're walking would be nice. Doesn't cost much.
Matter, it doesn't have to be a circle though? Or like if you're starting in a certain spot? How would it work?
Just have to have a plan of where you're going to walk, if there's a path to walk. If you know that you wanted to walk 2 miles or 1 mile, whatever it is, if you maybe kind of a way to map it out and make it visible to people is what I was thinking.
Okay.
You know, what's the distance from the amphitheater all the way to, I don't know, Palmetto Park Road?
Right, so just try to engage people more in physical activity
Engage
by
it.
having something,
Having the marker, but a knowledge of it too.
right, like some sort of sign or
Right.
something, yeah. Go ahead, Sue.
Great idea. They do that on this Greenway in Indianapolis, and it's amazing. Also, the bike lanes, I've heard in city council meetings that they want to expand the bike lanes, and I'd really like to see the safety of the bike lanes in the CRA and expanded into other parts of Boca.
Okay, I'll be the Grinch. How does our contribution to the CRA actually read, and how are the funds specifically to be used?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it cites that it's supposed to be used for recreation. For a while, it was just used for the Meisner Park bonds, but those were paid off, I think, in
Right.
2019. So since then, it's reverted back to just funding recreational amenities in the CRA.
Well, and
And
okay, well, from my aspect and from the Beach and Park District, if I said you were going to build some recreation amenities, you would think we're going to build a field house, softball, baseball fields, rectangular fields, swimming pool. If you see where I'm going, And we're talking about upgrades to underground utility infrastructure. I don't know that that is a recreational component. It may be something that they need to do, but I don't know that I would want my money spent there if I had my choice. I'd want it spent on something more active. Walking is an activity. It certainly is fitness. I think Craig and Sue have a great suggestion there. And maybe this is premature since it hasn't been approved or maybe even reviewed by council. But when we had the recreational needs analysis, when you cut through all the fluff there were some things there that were that I thought were interesting. A recreational center that was proposed with had basketball, a track around it, and not just throwing you out some things that I remember of that. And we're looking at the CRA. The limits are defined as what, Brianne?
I don't have the map in front of me, of course, but there's like,
East and west. Just give me an east and west dimension. I know.
well, it's not like a rectangle. It's an odd
Understood.
shape. So it goes around Meisner Park, it goes around Sanborn Square, comes up to the City Hall area. It ends where the old library used to be. So that used to be part of the CRA. Now
Okay,
it's
so
building
it doesn't
components.
touch on much east of US 1, in other words.
No.
Okay, all right. And the project that's going to go on downtown with the new city hall is going to replace probably Memorial Tennis.
Right.
And there was talk when I went to a Federation meeting, and they were talking about redoing the community center that sits now on Crawford Boulevard. And then there's been discussion about, the Ralston House, the Singing Pines and those kind of things being moved somewhere. But I haven't heard anybody suggest where that's going to be. And, we're running out of open space for that to occur. I just would like to have seen something more recreational in the spending pattern. Active as like a rec center. And I know there's not going to be any space for the tennis, but we don't know where that's going to go just quite yet. And I think that those are things that need to be massaged around this and given us some answers. All of our dollars typically have been spent on recreational facilities, whether it's physical plants like Sugar Sand Park. I like this building, like the swimming pool, like the rectangular fields, the diamonds. I mean, those are things that I see as recreational. These other items there, and I'm not dismissing the fact that we were asked for input, which is the first time that's happened that I've been on the commission. And so, and I don't want to be negative, and I'm trying not to be, but I think that more recreation should be used, should be spent on more recreation than the infrastructure that they're talking about here. And otherwise, then let's redefine the agreement that we have with the CRA to say we're not going to spend this on recreation. We're going to spend it on infrastructure, which I would not support anyway. But that's just my passing comments.
I guess I'm Grinch too. I agree with Bob. Our whole raison d'etre, our whole reason for being is the building, operation, and maintenance of recreational facilities in the greater Boca Raton area, the city and the reserve area. And the whole purpose of our contribution to the CRA was to further along that purpose. So, to use it for infrastructure, if we're going to use it for infrastructure, if it's now, well, wherever we feel like we can use the money, then what is the purpose of the CRA? There's a need for a rec center downtown. If they want to go outside of the CRA boundaries, there's a need for a rec center in the Pearl City area. There are so many places where this money could be put to good use for recreational facilities. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say it doesn't sit right with me because this is money that we're required to, a payment we're required to make. Um, but I'd like to see it, as Bob said, I'd like to see it for recreational uses, because that's why we're here. And I'd love to sit down with the city and come up uh, with ideas, and maybe even go outside the CRA area if that's the case. I would back a project uh, within the city, outside the CRA area using our funds.
I do want to clarify that the projects that I listed as far as those are things I pulled out of their downtown plan, and related those to recreation. So it's not the city suggesting that that's where our money's being spent. It was just things that I pulled out of their proposed plan. So they may have other plans in place, and certainly these are all ideas that we can recommend, as if it's a recreation center, walkability signs. Those are all things to suggest. The city did not say that that's how they're spending our money. I just pulled that from their downtown plan as things that I knew they had in the works, just to kind of start generating ideas of what they're doing in
In
recreation.
their plan, they don't say, okay, the commission is giving X amount of money
No.
and this is where it's going.
No, we never see that. And that plan has not been adopted by council. It's gone there. They actually pulled it from being adopted so that they could continue working on it. So those things could change. It was just, I just did that to kind of start the ideas, and give you some idea of some of the things that they had in consideration for the CRA that were related to recreation in some way.
Fine. But I'd throw in these other ideas, you were asking for, input on, and that really was the source of my response, was to provide some suggestions and to stress the fact that we need recreational amenities down there, just like we need walkability um, and, I think that, I'll not comment on the $65 million that was given to the city by from the sale of the golf course and the Taj Mahal that is planned for downtown. So, Taj Mahal?
I thought Sanborn Square, I mean, they do yoga in the park at Sanborn, and it is very run down. So I do think those improvements are something that would be a good thing. I wasn't completely opposed to the electrical upgrades, only because like when we need to do electrical upgrades or lighting or security, we do spend our money on that as well for the parks. So, and in our agreement, it's not defined exactly what is considered a recreational improvement. So it's kind of hard to go back to them and say we don't. I mean, I guess we can just give our opinion on it, but I was okay with that because I think if it's needed, it'll go towards that. But I do agree with you that there are recreational needs that are that can go toward in the CRA. But I think that discussion will come over the next couple of years, with Brianne meeting with Greg in the next month or so, hopefully, and then finding out kind of really what is going to stay and what is going to go, and then what can be planned in lieu of those places, those spaces. But this is more in the other area, east of City Hall. So I think that's kind of what they were looking at here, because obviously if they're going to be tearing down what's over at City Hall now, then they're not going to be doing any improvements there. So, I think this is like for next year and immediate improvements. Yeah. But like the policy thing, that's great, the policy, but I don't think that's going to cost any money, right? Implementing policies of recreation and open space. So, but good to know they're thinking about putting that in there, depending on what actually they, require of private properties, but we'll see. Go ahead.
I guess, given that and what the discussion and everything, clearly the city has this big decision they have to make, what they're going to do with their downtown. I think the consensus is here is if you're going to do something, build out your recreation facility with it. We're part of it. Use our money towards that. That's our number one thing. But they got to get through several different hoops before they get there. what they should, and I guess if we're gonna come away from this meeting as a recommendation, would be do Sanborn Square right and get it fixed up because you're building buildings downtown and that's one of your big open spaces left. And yoga in the parks, they're always doing something there. It's well used.
Mhm.
So I would say put that as the number one priority as a takeaway. Make sure you got everything the way you want Sanborn Square to do and be. So that when they start on all their other projects, that part is done and no one has to worry about it. And so it's complete. So I would say Sanborn Square is a priority. The walkability with the markers thing, to me, that's a low cost. That's a thought logic thing that is easy to do as well. And there's two projects pretty easy in my mind, that are accomplishable. The bigger, grander one of recreation won't happen until they figure out what they're actually doing on the downtown.
Right.
So
The Sanborn Square, walkability, and we'd like to see a recreation facility considered in their downtown comprehensive plan.
Good. All righty. All right, moving on to number 2, pool resurfacing design.
Page 8 of your agenda packets is a memo kind of detailing the pool resurfacing for Swim and Racket Center. This was something we budgeted this year to get done. So looking tonight for approval of the design work order as is in your agenda packets.
Concerns on this item? No? Can we have a motion from somebody?
Ruth?
Okay. Okay. Any discussion again? No? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Joanne.
Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to number 3, Swim and Racket Center water intrusion.
There's page 16 of your agenda packets is a memo I put together detailing what we're dealing with here at the swim center. This building is relatively new, but we are experiencing some water intrusion in both locker rooms. It's causing significant damage. The city had planned to repair it, but the procurement process is taking too long. So we're going to take over the project. They're going to provide some oversight from their facilities maintenance people. But overall tonight, what I would ask tonight is that we make a motion to approve the resolution that's included in our agenda packets, which would declare this an emergent need so that we could work on just getting quotes and then get this project fixed without having to spend any more time. I don't want to say wasting any more time, but spending any more time procuring and bidding this because we are seeing the damage continue to get extensively worse in the locker rooms. And there's some concerns about the health effects associated with the water damage as well. So the first thing I'd like to ask for is a motion to adopt the resolution that's included. Yeah, okay.
You read the resolution, please.
-01. It's a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District that's referenced as the district, finding and declaring a maintenance emergency at the Swim and Racket Club at the SRC related to locker room repairs, providing for a waiver or a procurement and bidding procedures in the best interests of the district, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally providing for an effective date. If the motion's on the floor to approve, that would then be approved by an appropriate vote of majority of the board. Thank you, Madam Chair. 2024-01 on the floor.
Thank you. Any comments or concerns on this one? Steve?
Move to approve the resolution.
Any discussion?
Yeah. Ready to do this sooner than later, but Mr. Gorin,
Yes, ma'am.
we need to pursue other remedies for the expenses that we're going to incur on this emergency procedure because this should not have happened on a new building, either insurance or through the contractor. I just want to make public record that I would like for somebody to be responsible for the amount of money that we're going to have to put into this. I have been through a mold remediation. It's not fun, and it's very dangerous to keep it for the health of the public and for the health of the staff.
Madam Chair, if I may, if the motion includes, which I believe it could, in the context of the resolution finding the emergent need to take specific action, if the motion also includes directing that we review and measure whatever possible claims there may be against any third party in that motion, we would certainly pursue that along with our professional staff. But no.
We have you work at that. Let's find out first what is wrong, and then we'll look at the legal remedies. With this resolution tonight, we don't know the cost because we don't know how extensive the damage is inside the walls. So obviously we want to get it done as soon as possible. They're looking at starting within a week or two. We have to find some replacement tile. Obviously that's not going to take 6 weeks to get in. But the goal is to get this done within the next, get started at least within the next week or two. And once they open up the walls, we'll have a better idea of what we're dealing with, if it was an issue with the contractor, if it was an issue with the design of the building, and then we can work on the legal remedies. But in the meanwhile, we have to also just get it fixed up.
And where the intrusion is actually coming from, where it stems from. Okay. Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. Go ahead, Janine.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to approval of, oh,
Application. So now that this is adopted, I will keep this board informed as we go through the process of expenses and costs associated. And we can just keep that conversation going at the following meeting so that everybody's aware of how it's progressing.
It's a matter of protocol on both the pool resurfacing and the water intrusion. When you're using contractors, Brianna, I suggest we always go through, we're paying for the services of the league, and we should ask them the proper terminology to be using in the contracts there. And there's certain construction endorsements that need to be on a contractor certificate when they're doing a job to cover some completed operations. And the same thing goes for dealing with architects. We need to have, evidence that they have professional liability. Unlike the general liability, we can't get named on there as additional insured. But certainly we need to make sure that they all have, up-to-date certificates on file with us. So.
did we already do that? Right, yes, yes. Okay, approval of payroll and invoices. Yes, we already did that.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $3,877,373.04.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Yes,
Motion passes.
okay, reports and discussion items. Executive Director.
Commissioners, some exciting news. North Park is looking like it's going to be on the planning and zoning meeting for August. So that's exciting. We'll get that's the site plan approval process. So moving along to get those approvals. We did get, right before this meeting started, we just got a few more notes back from environment, but nothing, it's just on the design docs themselves. So we'll address those. But August, we plan to go forward with those meetings and hopefully get approval from the advisory boards for city council. The playground at Patch is out to bid. We currently have had about 14 contractors ask for the bid specs, which is great news. June 21st is a pre-bid meeting, and then bids are due back on July 19th. So we're still on track to get that going and built after summer camp is over. The rebid for the column repair at Sugar Sand Park, those are due back June 28th. There was a pre-bid meeting held, and we had 4 contractors attend that pre-bid meeting. As you all know, the tower project is complete at Gumbo Limbo. It's pretty awesome. We had the opportunity to go out there with the Gazowski family and also with the ribbon cutting last week, and it's really a great attraction for Gumbo Limbo. And then I just wanted to congratulate Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, and our chair, Commissioner Wright, on their pending reelections. The board. It's great working for you all, and I'm glad to have you back for another 4 years.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I similarly wish the chair and our two commissioners the very best of congratulations. To the extent that the election process is certainly very challenging, we certainly welcome the conclusion of having you on board without the necessity of an election. So you've won and you're successful. I can say that. I think I'm allowed to do that as your lawyer, and I'm very happy that you are successful. We know what it's like to be sitting in a public body and to be committed and engaged in the public interest. So, and thank you for the opportunity of working with all of you for that purpose, which I know is very specific. Speaking of purpose, in the J.J. Morley case, just to give you a quick update, I want to just read to you something from our special counsel, which I think kind of echoes my comments at the last meeting when I was able to attend with regard to the status of the litigation, which is currently pending. This is in theory a public record, but I want to read it because it's valuable for you to hear it. I was communicating with Chris Stearns this morning, and his answer to my inquiry, which was to where are we with the litigation? Last we spoke, we were still in discovery, which is, asking questions, interrogatories, requests for admissions, a number of things, depositions. Chris responded this morning and said the following: they failed to answer our discovery timely, which is by rules. You have to respond to the discovery when you're given interrogatories to answer or requests for admissions or other matters. You can't sit on your hands. You can't just not do that under the rules. We attempted to confer, but they ignored us. Sounds familiar because they ignored us as well, and I can say that publicly. When we then filed the motion to compel and obtain an order, what does that mean? To be able to have lawyers and their clients actually respond to the rules of procedure, sometimes you have to file a motion to have a court order them to comply with those kinds of things. Lawyers have legal obligations and ethical obligations, not just because they're being paid a fee for the services that they perform. There's an ethical obligation to do what the rules and the law require. And last but not least, the answers are now due on June the 23rd, to the extent that we have requests for answers to questions. And lastly, we intend to set a corporate representative for deposition after we receive the answers. This defendant is financially viable, and just, again, I'll be very careful what I say on the record, but it's interesting that we're at this point in the discussion and have not had that conversation about even opening up a resolution of the controversy, where they are liable for the obligations incurred. So I raise it with you. I don't need to have any specific direction at the moment. You've given me direction that we needed. Suit was filed. I find it very interesting that counsel and the defendant have failed to be responsive. There are ethical rules that govern those kinds of things that lawyers take an oath to perform and to do. So I say that only because I can. I can answer questions if you have any, but that's where we are. We're in litigation and it's not over yet. Yes, ma'am.
At this point, is this a time when you make the Florida bar aware of what they're doing or not doing?
I think the answer is an open question until we know more about where we are. If a client is not being responsive to discovery requests and the client's refusing to do so, lawyers have a very significant ethical obligation. You know what that is? To withdraw, to not represent the client, because at some point in time, the lawyer who's on the hook for the obligation in the court system is on the hook for not doing that answer. So I think it's probably enough to say at this point, but it's regrettable that these kind of things happen. Because with all due respect, before this lawsuit was filed, I personally made several phone calls to counsel, sent multiple emails, a number of different correspondences, which we thought were rational and appropriate to at least get an answer, never responded to, which is a very odd way to do public business. And it's a very tough way to do legal business. Regrettable. So at any rate, we'll keep you fully posted. Yes, sir.
Am I allowed to ask the name of the defendant's counsel?
You are.
Okay.
Linkhorst. Adam Linkhorst is the name of the lawyer with a law firm in Boca Raton. And he's a mature lawyer.
Is he a solo practitioner or is
No, he's in a law firm.
in the name of the firm?
I don't have it in front of me. You can look it up, which I think Brian's doing now. But Adam Linkhorst is a construction litigator and represents developers, and represented this developer, not in the litigation sense, but in the development sense for this project to secure the easement from us and other things. So he certainly has special knowledge of the subject matter. But it is a law firm. It is in Boca. I don't have the file in front of me. Actually, pardon me a minute.
It's not I don't, it's not critical information. I can obtain that later, Sam.
That's the firm. That is a firm. Again, I'll probably be reserved in my comments, but we're now at a point now where we're compelling them to perform the discovery that they're legally obligated to perform, which at some point puts the lawyers at risk for not responding to a judge's order, which, because if you don't respond to a judge's order, you get to be held in contempt of court. It becomes an issue for the lawyer, not just for the client. So either your client's going to be responsive or you pull yourself out of the case because of the potential ethical problem with the court. Enough said. But thank you for listening. I'm not angry. I'm just a realist about it. Maybe a little bit angry, but I'm not publicly angry. Thank you.
I don't like one email sitting in my inbox unanswered, so I want to help people do that.
Well, Madam Chair, it was frustrating to me to try to call a fellow lawyer and just to talk, not to assert anything or to assail that person, but I call people back. In fact, 90% of the bar complaints filed against lawyers are for them that don't return phone calls. That's what the complaints are about, because they're not responsive. And now we have email, you have other means of communication. There are easy ways to answer. You can say.
So in a Yelp review?
I'm-
Because if I mean, as a small business,
Yes.
if you didn't answer a client's phone, I mean, you wouldn't be in business anymore, right?
You can say
So-
the client directed me not to talk to you. I mean, that's one thing that he could have said. He didn't.
Hmm.
He didn't call back.
Seems odd. Okay,
I use the word interesting, but odd
odd,
is a
interesting.
parallel as well.
Interesting is more of a positive one, I don't know. Okay, so you, yep.
Aside from echoing congratulations to both our chair and to Commissioner Ernst on their reelection, got nothing.
And likewise to both of you. Just a couple questions on the projects for Brianne. Before the meeting tonight, I got a query about the status of a roof over the rink, the hockey rink at Sugar Sand. I was just kind of curious on is that in next year's budget?
It is in next year's budget, and actually one of the firms that we are working on those continuing services agreements, they've done several of these, so we're hoping to have that. It will definitely be in next year's budget as one of our projects for sure.
Okay, well, I have a
wanna-
volunteer for you that plays a lot out there and they went up to a different location. They had some ideas from other locations
Okay.
to provide input,
Great,
which I know you like.
love it.
But if it works, I mean, that's something that we should consider over at Patch Reef and other places. And then the other question I have for you is the pickleball center. Refresh,
Or
what's,
Patch Reef.
yeah, the
So-
timeline on that one.
So right now, we are waiting on some approvals from, Public Works approvals from the city for the permitting. And there was some responses that were due on June 12th, which we didn't get back. And we followed up with a phone call on Thursday, followed up again today. And if we don't hear back, then I'm going to make a phone call tomorrow it's just one person that's waiting for their review process. So there was a deadline, they missed the deadline. Now we're pushing back to get that done. So and that's what we're waiting on to get the permits issued. But they started the tree root pruning, which has to be done well in advance. So that's already underway.
So in theory on the timeline of things,
Mhm.
you'll get a response and then
Then we should be good. We should start getting permits issued.
permits issued.
Yes, and then they can start. I mean, the goal is that, if we get the playground going by September, we'll probably have both of these projects. I mean, pickleball will start before then, but we'll have both of them. We'll have a lot of construction happening at Patch Reef at one time.
Okay, I mean, I guess I would like to get a real deadline put in place so that the city who is involved in it,
They-
could be, a stakeholder in understanding the deadline and the delays is really on them, but I think it's all of us. We want this stuff to get done sooner, quicker, faster. And so if one person is holding up the review
Right.
and it pushes us back a week, 2 weeks, it snowballs into something else and then no one's accountable.
Yeah.
So.
We are going to follow up. I mean, we should get it approved this week. Even if it's not that person, somebody else who can approve that
Yeah,
layer could get it done.
it would
Yeah.
be just great if we get a project timeline and agreement with the city that this is what we're working towards and hope they're working towards the same, because I'm afraid that the barrier-free playground is just it's gonna move on us, and I don't want it to move any more than it already has, as well as the pickleball.
We did do pre-permitting, so that's been really helpful. So we
Good.
did a lot of pre-planning, so we should be able to get permits relatively quickly now on that.
That's good because the commitment from us and the city council was, let's
Yes.
speed it along, and we were shooting for the summer. So it sounds like September, which is not
Well,
bad.
we
but
wanted to wait until after the summer camps are done using it because
Yeah.
that
Okay.
impacts.
It's good. Thank you.
Been double teamed. So my questions on were answered, but last week, last meeting, I mentioned a facility that we might take a look at. And it was not the county park, it was Loggers Run Park. That was the actual one that had been, I think the county had relinquished, and it had a good sturdy construction type that I thought might be helpful for us to take a look at. So that was it. Other than that, congratulations. I'm happy to have my my board back intact. You know, it's great to I mean, it's a whole lot easier working with people who have been here than and rather than trying to start from scratch on things. And now we're all seasoned and we have great working relationships. So I'm just delighted to be able to continue working with the three of you.
That word seasoned instead of we're old. Congratulations, Steve, Craig, and Madam Chair. It's our pleasure to have everybody together. This past week, the tower was opened. Steve and I attended, and it was not the best weather, but we did get the ribbon cutting done for Jacob's Outlook. Aaron, the next time you have a flat tire or need your kids watched so you can make the speech, because I did a horrible thing. I did not recognize three of my favorite people in the whole world, Brianne, Joanne, Melissa, and especially Chuck, but Chuck said he wasn't listening anyway, so it's okay. So my apologies. You guys deserve credit for all that you do for us, and believe me, you are appreciated in my heart. Brianne, I just have, since we signed that check and sent it off to the city, what is the balance on the bond?
I don't have the balance in front of me, but maybe we're closer to like 12, 13 million now because we're setting money aside, but we're just paying off what we owe each year. But thank you for everybody helping to get that check signed and delivered on time.
Okay, yes, thank you, everybody. And congratulations to both of you too. We didn't have to do election campaigns this year, so that's a bonus for sure. Makes life a lot easier. I'm happy to be on. I can't believe it's gonna be like, it's been 8 years, right? Gosh. And season, that makes me feel old. Don't say things like that. My gosh. I started here with no gray hair and now I have gray hair. Please. But yeah, so it's great to be on for another 4 years. I'm looking forward to it. I finally got my groove, I think, after 8 years. So here we go. And it was unfortunate. Yeah, I got a flat tire, but I really wanted to be there. Not necessarily to do the speech. I would have been there for sure. But yeah, I got a flat tire. So thank you for doing that. It was appreciated. And I think that's it. So,
Adjourn.
hey, Joanne.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Yes,
Motion passes.
we are adjourned.